All right, so a few days ago, I did an unboxing of Torpedo, which is a figure that I hadn't gotten yet. It was kind of late in the game that I got Torpedo finally, and I was really happy with that figure. Well, now here's another one that I was dilly-dallying on, and this is Croc and Fiona. So yeah, his little alligator friend gets some billing on the package. I say little, but look how huge she is. Like a big old alligator figure. Now, those of you who remember the original Crocmaster figure, she was like a little slug that came probably a little undersized for what you would want a crocodile to be in terms of like GI Joe figures. This one more than makes up for it. So, excuse me. Ah, anyway, let's go ahead and have a look at this packaging. Nice illustration there. Wraps around the side. This is more like the old style of GI Joe classified packaging. Got the big panoramic version of this picture we saw on the back of a lot of the figures that came out around that time. And you can see here, number 38, and I got it at Ross for $12. So when I got the Torpedo figure and I was looking at what GI Joe classified figures they had and being like, let's see if I can find something on Amazon that's like a good deal. And this was one of the ones that I considered when I bought Torpedo, but I wound up buying Torpedo instead. And I'm glad I did, because when I stopped into Ross that day, I saw this one for like $12, which when I saw it on Amazon, it was a good deal because it was like, I think like about the price that you'd pay for just like a regular figure. But, $12, that's way better. So, yeah, I'm glad I went ahead and got Torpedo instead and got this guy at Ross. So let's go ahead and open him up. And he's got this little cardboard tray on the inside. And this is a corrugated cardboard tray, so it's pretty substantial. Got this useless piece of paper here that's got some kind of legal mumbo jumbo on it. I'll set that aside. And here we can see all of our figures and accessories laid out here with the old school window packaging, not that so-called plasticless packaging that still has plastic in it, so it still has those stupid rubber tabs that I hate. We'll get rid of all the plastic packaging except for the stuff that Alan hates the most. That we will keep. So here is the first of his accessories that I'm removing. This is his whip. So we're going to set that aside. Now, the original Crocmaster, I believe, just came with the alligator and, like I guess the chain for the alligator and a whip. I'm pretty sure that was all of his accessories. But this one comes with quite a bit more. And here is the alligator leash. It's got a spiked collar on it and a chain and a handle for the chain. So I'm going to set that aside. And then we got some little baby alligators in here. So I'll go ahead and get them out. I keep saying alligators. It's not an alligator, it's a crocodile. I don't know. I'm more used to alligators than crocodiles because when we go to Florida, we see alligators. So there is one of the little baby crocodiles. The difference visually that you can tell between an alligator and a crocodile is that an alligator has a longer, pointier snout, and alligator has like a flatter sort of snout. Crocodile has a longer, pointier snout. So there we go. And then we've got over here, this is a nice looking firearm. It's a revolver. Looks almost kind of like a Magnum. So set that aside. And then we've got this nasty looking weapon. This little hook. Looks like something like a slasher movie villain would use. You can almost imagine Crocmaster being like a slasher movie villain. Like, at least in like the G.I. Joe context. So Fiona has some of the little rubber tabs around her tail, and there's some around her snout, which I think they'd be hard to get to. But I'm gonna try to see if I can pull her out, and I did. And then she's got a rubber tab that has actually gotten caught in the articulation of her wrist. This is an articulated figure, folks. This is not like a slug like the original crocodile that came with Croc Master. And the articulation is going to be kind of interesting on this. So let's go ahead and discuss that. So starting with the head, you would imagine that she would have an articulated jaw, and there it is. I almost thought it was glued shut for a second because I couldn't get it to open, but there we go. Got it to flip open, and you see some of the webbing in between the jaws there. That's kind of cool. Teeth are nice and sharp and pointy. The inside of the mouth is kind of like a pale tannish pink or pinkish tan, however you want to look at that. Seems like pretty realistic painting for a crocodile. Now her eyes are kind of subtle on there. It's almost the same color as her leathery skin, and it kind of blends in a little bit, but it does have the eyes painted in. So she's got, like I said, articulated jaw. So the jaw opens up like that. And then the head is on kind of a ball joint, so you can get all kinds of good range of motion out of that. She's got joints at the shoulders. Those rotate all the way around. They move up about that far, and go down about that far, which is probably about how far you want to have them down when she's moving around. She's got wrist articulation, and the wrists rotate all the way around. Her claws at the front. Paws. I don't know what you call that on a crocodile. Is it paws, claws? I'd say claws. I think claws makes most sense. And then there's a joint here which goes forward about that far and backwards about that far. So that's how that works. And then got her hind legs rotate all the way around this way and move up apparently about that far and move down looks like about that far. These are ball jointed at the hips. So her articulation does have parallels to how a human is articulated, and even the claws are kind of in that rocker ankle kind of style at the rear of the figure. And then we have this tail, which moves back and forth, got a good back and forth range of motion, goes down about that far and goes up about that far. But you know, when it's a crocodile, that tail's going to be kind of dragging on the ground. So that's pretty much what you're going to want to have her look like on your shelf. There is also a torso articulation here. So there is a good amount of articulation and movement on this crocodile. I'm really impressed with it. The other thing I'll point out is in addition to all the traditional action figure articulation, you can see little holes there, and you know what that means? This is a bendy tail. So we can even kind of bend the tail around a little bit. It curves about that far. Maybe if they make Golobulus, they'll give him a bendy tail like the original figure. But hopefully it'll work better than that original figure if they do that. But it looks like I heard a rumor that Golobulus is going to be a convention exclusive coming up. But I guess we'll see if that happens. But I really like this figure, and also the figure has like kind of almost like a rubbery sort of texture to it, like they were trying to give it like a realistic reptilian texture. And the body of the figure is actually like a soft. It's really hard at the top because it's dense, but the belly itself, you can see it kind of squishes in a little bit, and that's nice. It reminds me of like an old alligator toy, like you might have bought for cheap at the dollar store or something like that. But it's got articulation added to it. The paint detail is really good. Obviously, there's the lighter green application of paint here at the bottom, and then over the top, it's almost kind of like they airbrushed like a darker olive green over like the main olive green that the figure is actually molded in. So Fiona is pretty impressive, and technically, I guess this is Fiona's accessory because she's going to be wearing it. Is this spiked collar with the chain? So we'll go ahead and put that around her neck, and I think it should fit all the way down around her neck, down to where the neck articulation actually is. I think that's how you're intended to do that. So I just kind of have to work it over her jowls here. And it seems like it settles in at a nice spot right about here. You can see there's like a little bit of an indentation in her neck right there. That seems like where that's supposed to stop. So that's where that's going to go. And obviously, Croc Master will hold on to the leash and lead her around when we take Croc Master out of the package, of course. So let's go ahead and set Fiona aside for the moment, and then get the Croc Master himself. There's one accessory that I missed when I was pulling out accessories, and that's this knife. It's a nice little knife. I would have probably given Croc Master a larger knife. That's just me. And Croc Master himself does not have any rubber tabs or anything like that. He just came right out of the package. I guess maybe they figured Fiona, being a larger, heavier toy, needed a little extra support. Croc Master, being just a typical G.I. Joe action figure, did not. And Croc Master, as you would imagine of this character, is a very large and muscular figure. So let's compare him to some of our other larger muscular figures. I have here Sergeant Slaughter, and you can see that they are of comparable size. I think Sarge is a little larger in the torso, it looks like to me anyway. He's got those bulging pectoral muscles that make him look just that much more impressive. And I do believe that the heavy artillery roadblock uses the same torso. So that should give you some idea as to how he looks next to roadblock. It does look like he shares the upper arms with Sergeant Slaughter. And since I happen to have a roadblock handy, which is the Cobra Island roadblock, we can compare with those. And I believe all three of those figures should share the same arms. And I know I had, yeah, here we go. I got a Gung Ho over here. And of course, Gung Ho shares the same arms. So these are all guys who are like in the basically the same proportions. So let's go ahead and set those down so we can look at Croc Master himself. And Croc Master does have some places to store these smaller accessories. And like I said, the original Croc Master just kind of came with the whip and the alligator, and the alligator leash. But this guy's got a couple of other extra accessories. He's got this knife, which, like I said, I probably would have given him a larger knife. It does look a little disproportionate in his hand. Like he should probably have a more substantial knife, I think. But it does fit into this ankle sheath. Let's see how well it fits. It's a little loose. I would have probably preferred for that to be a little more tight. And I'm just saying, if they made the knife larger, it would fit more tightly. Should have had a bigger knife. And then we got this pistol. So let's go ahead and put the pistol in his hand and see how that looks. And it's a nicely sized hand cannon, which, like I said, this being a bigger figure, you want him to have a bigger gun. And it's not like the biggest gun I've seen in G.I. Joe Classified, but it doesn't look ridiculously tiny in his hand. It looks, about well proportioned. So I'm happy with that. Let's see how well it fits into his holster. It's a rather large looking holster. And fits in there nice and snugly. See, that ain't falling out. That ain't falling out. But this knife, that's going to fall right out. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Nothing. I just kind of lower the figure, just comes right out. This one, I can hang him up on the wall by that pistol. He'd be fine. All right, so now that we're over that, there's one more accessory that I didn't really think of this at first, but because it was attached to the figure out of the package. But he's got this little oxygen tank, this little rebreather, and little obviously the mask on his face. No one cared who I was until I put on the mask. This is kind of like Bane, doesn't he? So if you combined the movie Bane with the comic book Bane, that'd be what you get. And he's got the backpack hole in the back, and the little oxygen tank just kind of plugs in there. So that's technically an extra accessory since it does come loose, but it was attached to the figure in the package. So uh, let's look at his articulation. So his head looks up about that far, looks down about that far. He can kind of tilt his head quizzically because of the ball joint. And the head would turn all the way around, but of course the hose attached to the rebreather kind of hampers that. Arms will rotate all the way around. They move up about that far, move down about that far. He's a little muscle bound, so they're not going to move down all the way. Got a bicep swivel that rotates all the way around. Got the double jointed elbows. Pretty good range of motion on the double jointed elbows, considering how muscular those arms are. He's got wrists that rotate all the way around, and they've got a horizontal cut, it looks like to me. Yep, that's on both of them. So these would probably be the same hands that are on Roadblock, I would imagine. They do look like they are indeed the same gloves that were used on Roadblock. He's got an ab crunch, of course, so he can bend down about that far, bend back about that far. And then he's got like this kind of joint here. It's reminiscent of the old O-ring joints, but it's not held together by an O-ring. It's on like a ball joint, but it does kind of work in the same sort of manner. And then he's got the drop-down hips, typical of classified figures, so that should give him a little more range of motion on the legs. Legs move up about that far. He does have a thigh cut, so the thigh rotates all the way around. We got the double jointed knees. That's about the range of motion that you get on the knees. Good range of motion there. And he does have a boot cut. The boot rotates all the way around. And he's got the cool rocker ankles that move all over the place. Let's talk about some of the detailing on this figure, because there's a lot of good detailing on this figure, both in terms of sculpting and painting. First of all, I want to start off with the head, which mostly is in black plastic, but then he's got this silver mask, very bright, shiny silver. And you can see he's got these piercing blood red eyes. This is an intimidating dude. I like to imagine that the eyes would kind of glow red when he's stalking through the night on Cobra Island with his crocodiles. And that before the G.I. Joes would see anything about this guy, they would see those piercing red eyes just glaring through the darkness at him and be like, oh shit, it's Croc Master. and Croc Master's around, his crocodiles are around, and they're almost as scary as him. So he's got two different wristbands, one of which is a metal wristband, looks like it's molded in silver plastic. It is a separate piece, so that means that it's probably the same forearms that are on Roadblock and Gung Ho and all those guys as well. But is it? Let's have a look. So Gung Ho and Roadblock both have like a wristband, and it does look to be the same on Sergeant Slaughter. But I don't think there's a wristband on this guy. Let's see if I can pull his hand out without using the hair dryer. The knife fell out of the sheath. Did I not call that? All right. So he does have, I wasn't sure because it was unpainted, but he does have that same wristband that the other three figures have. So it is the same forearm. So, and if you wanted to, a lot of people have been buying second sets of these so they can have two crocodiles for Croc Master. And if you really wanted to, you could maybe swap out one of these forearm bracers and have either two of the metal bracers or two of the crocodile hide bracers. And he is wearing a lot of crocodile hide. A lot of, like, you see his vest is made entirely out of crocodile skin. And he's got this crocodile skin bracer. And this is like the thick skin. This is the stuff from the back. It looks like the stuff that's on his back. And then the boots themselves are crocodile boots. And you can see that they've got like a lot of crocodile texture to them. I'm gonna pick up that knife and put it back in his sheath, and hopefully that won't get lost. Okay, so his belt is like a silver weight belt. Like if you look at the back, that's obviously a weight belt. That buckles in the back. It's like one of those wood. And he's got up in the front this big. I guess it's not a buckle because the buckle's in the back, but like a big crocodile eyeball decoration on there, and some other detailing in yellow. And then he's got a crocodile skin cod piece because Cobra is not known for their subtlety, and he does have the Cobra symbol on a badge on his vest, and pretty cool to see they actually sculpted in the Cobra symbol rather than just do like a tampograph or something. It's actually like a substantially sculpted Cobra symbol, so that's pretty cool. So and then pretty plain black pants, not a whole lot to speak about as far as the pants go. They look just pretty average, just tight fitting black trousers. So, but with the rest of the detail on this guy, and as crazy as some of these details are, it's it's forgivable that he has plain black pants. It probably would be a little too much if he had anything other than plain black pants. So let's have a look at the larger accessories that come with the figure. So first of all, we've got this hook, and that is just nasty. So we're gonna go ahead and put the hook in his hand, and I'm gonna put it in his left hand because I want to put the whip in his right hand. So, and I don't see any place to store the hook when it's not being used. Like maybe you could be clever and come up with some kind of way to hook it around something on this figure, but I don't see like a bespoke like hook, like a hook to hold his hook. But there he is with the hook, pretty nasty. And then the more traditional accessory for Croc Master, of course, is the whip. So let's go ahead and put that in there. And his hands are really nice hands. They're just rigid enough that I don't have to worry about them being too rubbery to hold the accessories, but they're still just rubbery enough that I can actually pry the hand open fairly easily and fit the accessory in there. So that's what he looks like with the hook and the whip. But we're going to set the hook aside for the moment because I want to go ahead and put the leash into his hand, and then we can get the full effect. So there he is with the leash in his hand, and he's taking Fiona out for a walk, a nice calming walk through the swamp, and maybe they'll find some G.I. Joes to snack on. Oh no, it's Nunchuck! You've heard of Pirates versus Ninjas. What about Ninjas versus Crocodiles? How's that going to work out? So yeah, this is a pretty cool set. I'm glad I was finally able to get it. I kind of slept on it for a while because since it was a larger set and it was a little more expensive, I had other figures to buy at the time. But I'm glad that I was finally able to get them, especially for such a ridiculously cheap price. I think it was definitely worth picking up. But like I said, I was considering picking them up on Amazon when it was about twice as much as what I actually paid for it at Ross. But for what I paid for it at Ross, yeah, I'm really glad I was able to find them when I did. So that's pretty much it for Croc Master. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please make sure you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Croc Master. He's kind of one of those figures that came in that weird sort of nebulous period of the late 80s where like a lot of the 80s kids were getting out of playing with G.I. Joe at the time because, we were just outgrowing playing with toys. And a lot of the 90s kids, the kids that would be collecting the 90s G.I. Joe were just starting. So I still bought a few G.I. Joes occasionally through the 90s if I saw one that I thought was really cool. Because I was still collecting toys because, the Batman movie got me into collecting toys again. Like that was kind of my birth as an adult collector when I was 13 and the Batman movie came out. And I still love G.I. Joe. I still read the comic book. So I was still a fan of the characters, and I would still occasionally buy GI Joe figures all through the '90s. But Croc Master would have been probably one of the last ones that I would have bought when I was still actively playing with toys. So he was one I had a little bit of affection for, but just kind of this one just kind of fell through the cracks for me a little bit, and like some of these figures do sometimes. But I'm glad I was finally able to get them. Oh, I didn't really notice this on Fiona. She does have like I thought it was just a solid metal collar, but there actually is like some leather detail in between. Like it's a metal plate at the top and the bottom, and then leather at the side. So it's probably like a whole leather strap that goes all around. And this the metal plating is just kind of bolted on at the top and the bottom. That's probably how that would work in real life. So anyway, that's pretty much it for Croc Master. We will talk to you next time. Bye.